for Open Graph, and today I would love to talk to you guys about why we build Open Graph and also how you guys can build beautiful experiences in both newsfeed and timeline. So, to get started, I like to talk a little bit about something we think about a lot at Facebook, which is why do people share? So basically, we think that people share because for as long as we've existed, human beings have had a need to tell stories, right? We want to tell them, we want to hear them, because that's how we learn and connect with each other. In the beginning, it was about the thrill of the hunt. It was the fact that we had to hunt in packs because animals were bigger, stronger, faster, and had hoofs and fangs, right? And that's how we succeeded, and that's how we told our other friends, this is how you're going to succeed. Sometimes a message was so important that we just hope that somewhere, someone is going to carry this on and hear our story, right? And then there were also the most brute force check-ins ever. You literally wrote on the wall. So the storytelling tools of our generation is basically Facebook and our mobile devices. With those two things, you can reach any audience you want, anywhere you are. And that's pretty awesome, right? We've worked hard over the years to make this experience better. We started with some of the basic tools, like just send a message. So this is Doug promoting a book. He does that a lot, and if you follow him on Facebook, you'll realize that he reads a lot of random books. But we all know that a photo is worth 1,000 words. And Anish could have written me an essay where I could live his weekend through these photos. And this is like a beautiful experience on mobile that all of us have gone through while we're waiting for the bus or while we're just have a few moments to live through our friends, right? Location is obviously super important to any story, knowing where your friends are. And guess what? Now you can check in to places without walls. No markers, no walls necessary. So you're probably thinking, this is all great, but how does Open Graph fit into all this, right? Well, we built Open Graph so that people can have the power to tell stories through any apps. Because we know that people with their mobile devices are spending time in all of your apps. They're building memories. They're doing things. They're listening to songs. They're reading books. They're watching movies. They're running. They're eating. They're recording all these fantastic experiences. And we want to make sure it's really easy to share those stories back to their Facebook friends. And we want those stories to be first-class citizens on Facebook. So it's been a little over a year since we launched Open Graph. And I don't know if you guys know this, but over 1 billion actions are shared via Open Graph to Facebook every single day. Now, I'm the product manager for Open Graph, and this number surprises me every single day, right? We're not talking about billion MAUs, we're talking about billion actions every single day. And these actions are things like Instagram photos, which are beautiful, right? I took a lot of time to crop this photo, pick the right filter so my friends and I look great, right? And I can very easily share that photo back to Facebook. And when I do, basically that same photo has the same fidelity, and every single pixel is just as perfect in the Facebook newsfeed as it is on Instagram. And that story now reaches all my friends and family on Facebook, as well as my followers on Instagram. Or when I finally become mayor of MPK 16 through this check-in, right, I can not only check in on Foursquare, I can have that same check-in show up on Facebook, and it also shows up on my timeline map, just like any other check-in that I do via Facebook. Right? These are truly first-class citizens, rather than just another link or a blob of text that gets lost over time. Right? So we've been talking a lot about how these stories show up, but we're all engineers here. We're all developers. So let's break this down a little bit. What is a story? Well, a story is a subject plus a verb plus a noun, right? Pretty simple. And then Open Graph echoes this model with basically a user plus an action plus an object. An example of a story would be, especially for me, Rose ate a meal. I like to eat a lot, so I'm pretty excited to be here, actually. But that's not really a very compelling story, right? It doesn't tell you much. And I just showed you all these awesome features with messages, with photos, with place tags, and you're like, where is all this stuff? So how can we make the story better, right? Let's start. So if I were writing the story on Facebook, I would probably say, I'm having a great meal. So you at least know that this is actually a meal I want to have again. I might also tell you where this meal was. So this is at Limon, which is a restaurant in the Mission San Francisco, highly recommended. Who was I with, right? Which friends did I have this meal with? Because as we all know, things are better with friends. So my friend Jackie and Reshma were actually with me on this meal. And then, like I said, a photo is worth 1,000 words. So I would add a picture that we took during this, this dinner. And it was chicken and the sweet potato fries are excellent. So all of these features I just showed you, so user message, place tagging, user tagging, and photos are available to every single Open Graph action. We made sure that all the tools that a user will have at their disposal to build a beautiful story in Newsfeed to share with their friends are available via the API. So any single action, whether it's built-in, so listening to a song or reading a book, or a custom one like eating a meal or spotting something or running, going on a run, every single one can have all of these features and all of these tools available to you. So that's pretty cool, right? I mean, so far, what I've been telling you is how to build a beautiful story that's about what you're doing right now. So am I eating? Am I, listening? Am I talking, right? Or what are you doing right at this moment? But as Doug mentioned earlier, one of the things that we really aspire to do is help users tell the most important story of their lives, which is who are they, right? It's the question that you ask every time you meet someone new. It's the question you probably ask yourself at least once in a while, which is like, who am I, who do I want to be, and what have I done, right? So when we launched Open Graph in September 2011, we also launched Timeline. And I don't know if you guys remember scrolling through your timeline for the first time, but when I did, it was actually a little bit emotional. Like, going all the way back in time, I was pretty excited to see photos of me from college, to see when I first moved to San Francisco, when I got my dog, and it was a really big step forward in bringing people's stories to life and letting people literally write the story of their lives over time, right? But let's be honest, there were a few things that we could have done better at. So this was my Pinterest page on the timeline we launched in 2011. It clearly does not tell a good story of who I am in terms of how I like to express my style and what aesthetics I have. This is the music page. And again, you could tell a little bit, but you really don't know what artists I, listen to a lot and which musicians are my favorites, right? So not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, we launched an updated version of Timeline. And the whole goal of this timeline is to help users tell a better story and to honor the content that we're getting from you guys and from users. So a couple big changes is that we have a single wide column for all the stories so that we can really highlight and preserve the fidelity of these beautiful stories, like photos from Instagram or my runs from Nike. We have a left-hand column, which is always all time, including all the apps that users are using, like Pinterest, Food Spotting, Foursquare, as well as sections around music, books, movies, and TV. And this left-hand column is actually just a preview of basically immersive view of all that content. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more. So let's take a look at my About page. So the way I think about this page is that the first few sections are the first 5 minutes of my conversation with someone. It's basically, hi, my name is Rose. I went to this school. This is what I do. I live in San Francisco, and I'm from China, right? And then, hey, maybe here's a few friends we have in common and a party I went to recently. Then I go into the next hour of conversation. I'm really into fashion, right? I'm so glad that I'm in New York because I can't wait to hit the sample sales tomorrow. And you can tell what kind of style and aesthetic I have through my Pinterest board. And that is actually a piece of me. That is a story that I'm telling you about who I am, right? Outside of just, the day-to-day things like what photos I'm taking and where I go to work. And then we really thought about the media that we consume in our lives. And let's be honest, music is universal. And so are movies and books and TV. These are things that we all spend time consuming, and they make up who we are, right? So we really highlighted and made it really easy to parse basically what people listen to, what people watch, right, and what people read. And these are available on every single user's profile. And it includes Open Graph actions, so if you publish listens and watches and read actions. Also includes what people have already liked on Facebook. So it's a comprehensive view of that person's consumption profile. And other things we've obviously highlighted is that every single app, every single Open Graph developer can create a section on the user's timeline that highlights what they think is important for the user. So for Instagram, obviously there's the photos I take, but they're also highlighting photos I like and follow on Instagram, because as you know, that experience is actually pretty important. OpenTable highlights places I've been, right? And we can see that, for me, the Places page, or Places section, shows not only my check-ins from Facebook, but also my check-ins from Foursquare and all the other apps that contribute location. And I like to travel a lot, so that's another thing you can learn from me through my profile. So I talked to you a little bit about today about how to build beautiful stories, what tools we're putting at your disposal, as well as how to take advantage of the great new timeline experience that we just built. Before I hand it over to Eddie, who's really going to dive into basically how we're making it easier to do all of this stuff, I want to take one last example end to end and talk about the power of data and talk about things that we could do with Open Graph that we could never do on Facebook before. So let's take one of my favorite examples. So you're using Nike running app, you're running, you're pretty excited because you feel good about it. And as a lot of runners will tell you, bragging is half the fun. So once you're done, you share that run back to Facebook. At that point, Nike publishes an action via Open Graph to Facebook, and this story shows up. So in this case, it's actually a run that Doug has done. He ran 6-ish miles. He ran in Palo Alto, and you can see his exact route and when he started and finished. And we could never do this before Open Graph, right? We would basically have this awkward status update that's like, Doug went on a run. He thinks he went 6 miles, and maybe his pace was this. But this is real. This is data, right? And there's he can't lie about it. Well, he could technically hack it, but he's not doing that. But we all know that one run does not a runner make, right? Let's be honest. So he went on a run. So what? What does that really mean, right? So one of the things we did with the new version of Timeline is actually also create a fitness section that really helps people understand who you are as a runner. So for Doug, I can actually go to his profile and look at his fitness section and see, okay, he actually is a runner. He goes on 4 runs a week. His average run is actually 10 miles, not just 6, right? Here's his pace. Here's a beautiful visualization of his runs over time, which I can spice and say, oh, what was it in April? What was it in March? And if I'm a runner, I can see how we compare and say maybe, hey, Doug, let's do our next one-on-one as a run. Actually, let's not do that, actually. Just joking. But the point is, with structured data and with Open Graph, we can tell better stories together, and we can build beautiful experiences for users on both Newsfeed and Timeline, and tell a story that lasts, forever. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Doug for a second. You're going to run?